Welcome to Team Sports Entertainment, your one-stop shop for mature dialogue. We're going to get right to it. Welcome to Team Sports Entertainment, the podcast, your one-stop shop for mature sports dialogue. I'm your host, Earl Teamer, alongside my co-host, my big uncle, Alan Teamer. Before we go any further, please like the video, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel. Once again, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That way you know Dream Team is out there when we upload new content. All right, we getting right to it. The Eastern Conference playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Listen up, man. I slept on it. I know it's the first round. Typically, the first round is very boring, but it's been very exciting, man. As of today, Saturday, we'll start here. The Miami Heat.
Oh, that was a surprise because I was big on Miami.
Yes, you are.
Beating the Bucks.
We both were throughout the season. Yeah.
Actually, throughout the season, but no, in our last episode, you had
the Bucks winning in 5 or 6. I can't remember.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I really didn't see a sweep coming, and I really thought that Miami Heat had the number of them. But you and our special guest, Cedric Ward.
Say, what up, baby?
Yeah, I wish Ced was here today with us today, but he's out visiting family out in South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
And but you and Ced had the Bucks in 5 or 6, I believe. I had Miami in about 5 or 6 or something like that. But I never thought that they would sweep Miami. I don't know what happened as far as Miami's concerned, but
we know what happened, though.
Jimmy Butler did not show up, man.
It was, first of all, if you look at the rosters, man, a lot of people, Drew Holiday isn't a perennial all-star, although he should be.
Yeah.
If you watch games, you know the difference that he makes on the floor. It doesn't always show up in the box score, but they were just a more talented team.
I didn't think that, though. That was the thing. I mean, I know, listen, Drew Holiday, I know what he's capable of. Mm-hmm. Don't get that twisted. But I just didn't think that a sweep?
See, that's the difference. It's not so much losing; it's how they lost. And Jimmy never looked like himself. And if we're really being honest with ourselves and the Miami Heat fans out there, it's been an uphill climb the entire season. And with a team that's constructed that way, you can't really turn it off and turn it on because you don't have the star power that other teams may have, like
it's
LA.
A different type of star power.
Yeah. They don't have like top 5 players on the team. So Jimmy, you know what? It was hard this time around because of the matchup. Can't go off last year because it was a different team, and also you weren't really sneaking up on anyone.
And it wasn't even. I don't even think it was about sneaking up because last year was different. The bubble. There was no fans, and it's different. I think the pressure of the fans was not on a lot of players in last year. And I mean, of course, I'm a Laker fan. Yeah, we know that. But I'm an NBA fan first. And a lot of people say, they try to take away from the Lakers championship because of the bubble. And I can understand in that just a little bit now.
Well, all right, I'm gonna let you finish your point because I'm gonna be devil's advocate because I have another point to counteract that.
A lot of players because when I look at the Miami Heat, who we're talking about, I look at some of their players and the way they played in the bubble and compared to where they played now it's night and day.
Yeah, but also, if that's the case, because I know where you're going with it, why weren't they consistent throughout the whole year?
But it was bad the whole year. Yeah, I mean, even down to Jimmy Butler been in and out the lineup and all that, and he would have a good game and then come back and talk about how the team just. He don't understand how the team is not doing this and how not doing that, and they need to stop and they need to attack the basket and stop pulling up for short jump shots and all that. But I watched him all during the playoffs do the same thing that he claimed that he claimed that they were all doing. Although he never really put it on the team, it always come off as the other part of the
like a
players.
subliminal message.
Yeah. But Jimmy did not step up as the leader that they were looking for.
But you know what too? Because if you go back to our past episodes, Dream Team is out there. We've spoke about the Bucks and we critiqued them throughout the whole year. Not the Bucks. We critiqued Bud, who's the coach, and Giannis, right?
Yeah.
And we would talk about how his limitations hurt the team.
Mm-hmm.
But you also spoke about them having playmakers or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And that was the difference in the series because although you could key in on Giannis, Drew and Middleton was setting them up. And Giannis was not bringing the ball up as much. He was just picking.
It's exactly what we explained in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
I was screaming playmakers. They need playmakers, and and Holiday is a playmaker. And if you watch this series, how Giannis got his points and how he was affecting the game. It wasn't more of him dominating the ball and going downhill. It was more of other players going downhill, setting up different plays and giving him the ball from foul line in, and he didn't have to create for himself. So it makes you shine a different type of light on what on what Milwaukee can actually do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They definitely play within themselves. Now, last thing on Miami, I think the hesitancy of Bam, and because Jimmy Butler didn't take a lot of shots that were wide open as well. And so he just didn't look like himself. It seemed as though he was a little tired out there. They just didn't have the workhorses. Tyler Hero never showed up.
He didn't show up. He could knock down shots.
Duncan Robinson had game one is a very effective game for him. But outside of that, we spoke about this again. I hate to sound as if we're some psychics out here, but we do watch the games. Miami is a threshold.
Mm-hmm.
They can only score a certain amount of points.
Right.
And if they can't stop you from reaching probably 105 to 110, it's rare that they're going to win those games.
Right.
And if Jimmy is not bubble Jimmy, and if Tyler Hero isn't showing flashes of who Pat Riley or front office seems to think he can be, or Bam isn't playing like an all-star, it shows.
And that didn't happen this series.
At all, man.
Bam didn't show up.
Game one, it was a flash. That's it.
Yeah.
After that, it was over.
Bam didn't show up. Jimmy didn't show up. Not as the stars that they needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that they changed the lineup and Dragic came off the bench and all that, but none of those other players stepped up to be the player that's needed in this series.
Kendrick Nunn was balling though.
Kendrick today,
yeah.
he balled. But as a full entire series, no.
Yeah.
You can't show up in the last game of with elimination series, and now you still the only one that's showing up.
Yeah.
But I want to see the dude that show up for. It was 4 games.
Yeah.
I want to see you show up for 4 games.
Yeah, but
I'm really hurt.
Yeah.
And disappointed in the simple fact that because I had Miami coming out of the East.
Mm-hmm.
That changed my whole perspective of the Eastern Conference now.
Yeah.
Because what I expected from Miami is what I saw last year from them in the bubble.
Yeah, they kind of like bust your bubble, right?
Fans changed a whole lot because the fans makes a lot of noise, put a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, but even then, because when you think about the bubble, right? Because people like to say how there's no fans, but there were other different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about affluent individuals who, they have long money. They're used to living in certain hotels, a different type of lifestyle. They had to adjust to that as well. So although there weren't no fans in the bubble, people had to stay in the centralized location. So that was another hurdle too.
Yeah, but that's more of a affection of now I can have that one-on-one approach with my teammates.
But what does that speak of? We talk about this a lot off air. It applies to life, right? Discipline.
Yeah, I think that the bubble made discipline priority, and it was whether you wanted it or not, it was there because you had nothing else but teammates.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you didn't have families, you didn't have the nightclubs, you didn't have the different problems that come across, distractions that can actually come across. They didn't have those because they was in one location, and it was only one thing only: get prepared for your next game. Yeah. Because it was, I mean, how many times can you ride on a roller coaster on Disney?
Now, I think that.
You know what I'm saying?
So there's pros and cons, right?
Because if you look, a lot of players that played in the bubble last year that had great shooting percentages, they're struggling right now.
Yeah.
And whether what team, from the Lakers who won a championship on down, there's guys who have great bubble shows, but when it come down to now, they're not showing up.
So the question to you is, like, you because I agree with some of that sentiment that a lot of cats showed out and looked like otherworldly players in the bubble. Is that because? Is it because of the environment, or is it because their lack of production is because of the bubble and the residue it left behind, the turnaround time? Because if you look at certain teams,
yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, like
because Milwaukee went home relatively early in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and Miami was late. They was in the finals,
and even their key pickups, Milwaukee, didn't make the playoffs.
Right,
Drew was home early. He never made. Remember, they tried to set it up for the Pelicans to make the eighth seed, but they didn't make it.
No.
So, but at the end of the day, this is just me speaking. You know what I'm saying? This is team sports, but based on my opinion, I can only speak for myself. Milwaukee was just a better team, man.
Yeah, I believe they was the better team last year. I just don't think that. I just think they got caught up.
Giannis ain't have the heart. He
No, last year was a different team. He didn't have the same makeup.
The playmakers.
He didn't have the playmakers.
That is valid,
and if you
brother.
go back to the beginning of the season when, with the Eastern Conference that we talked about in that episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how Giannis need playmakers that's going to get him the ball in positions where it's not that difficult for him. And that's exactly what happened in this series. So maybe it's not about the bubble. Maybe it's not about all the other things that we just mentioned. But maybe it's just about Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks getting the pieces they need, a la Drew Holiday, the kid from San Antonio that came from San Antonio.
Forbes.
Come on. I mean,
Brick Lopez getting some inside buckets. They just switched it up a lot, man.
They switched it up a lot. Because, like, not the game today, but game 3. Game 3?
Well, 2 and 3 were dominant.
Lopez and down in the box was ridiculous. And we talking about Miami and the Bucks, you know, and that series is over. But there's so many other teams in the East that we need to be worried about because that is over with already.
No doubt. So let's transition. So maybe we'll talk about 1 and 8, right? So we have Philly and Washington. As we speak right now, Philly is up by about 8 points at the end of the first quarter. They're up 2-0 in the series. They're just a better team.
Yeah.
You just see the difference.
They just can't. Yeah, it's like
too much size.
Yeah.
Better coaching. High IQs on the roster.
Yeah.
More playoff experience.
Westbrook is pretty much breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not breaking down like he can't deal through the playoffs, but he's dealing with injuries, possible ankle injury where it's possible he might not even play today, but he is playing, you know, and then
a lot of cats haven't been there,
right? And then that's a young team.
And another thing is that,
and they don't have size at all,
and
you're dealing with Embiid.
who is a unicorn pretty much in this league day and time. And Washington, kind of like Miami, I think is a familiar theme, although they didn't make the playoffs last year. A lot of these teams have been playing playoff-style basketball for the last month or so just to get in position.
Just to get in position for that.
So now they're hitting brick walls. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And also...
Because they're doing that with young players on that team. You got like, okay, we got Bill and we got Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them dudes are all young.
Yeah.
And they don't even understand this level of play that it takes to be successful in the playoff.
And it's just a bad matchup. But with that being said, because when we started the show, we said we were excited about like the Eastern Conference or the playoffs as a whole. It's one thing about Westbrook, right? He brings about narratives that are just... It's unique because even when his team is losing, you still find yourself waiting to tune in because...
He never gives up.
It's something to be said about that, man. Never giving up.
That's exactly why we did the episode on the why is Westbrook misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's always going to give you that 100% on the floor.
That's real.
He's always giving you the effort that it takes to try to win games. And, I mean, he gets the label of a loser, don't know how to win games and all that, but I just don't agree with that. It's just that he's in a position where he can't succeed.
Yeah. And most people would say it's his fault, right? But at the end of the day, wherever he goes, he plays hard. And they just so happen to be playing against a team, like we stated, went down the facts, who are much bigger, better coach, better overall roster. And
Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid,
Ben Simmons, Danny Green. Like we talking about winners.
Yeah.
And we're not talking Embiid.
We're not talking about superstars, but we're talking about dudes who have a resume of winning in this league. And I know that sounds strange when we mention that dudes have a resume of winning in this league when you start talking about
Embiid?
Not Embiid. Yeah,
Simmons?
Embiid and Simmons. I know they're not, but they got to me a Hall of Fame coach, and Doc Rivers and Danny Green, I'm not saying he's Hall of Fame because he's nowhere near being Hall of Fame, but Danny Green is a winner.
Yeah.
You know, and you get a coach like Doc Rivers with a Danny Green going along with the talent of Embiid and Simmons. Then you got Steph Curry, little brother over there, who shoot a better percentage than he does. I mean, and
Seth.
Not only that,
Tobias.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tobias is having a great season. He's having an even better postseason. And I mean, enough is enough.
And they added George Hill. Don't go by box scores. We're talking about experience.
And they're playing against Washington.
Yeah.
Who've been dealing with injuries and COVID and all that stuff all season long. And although the fight and the heart and determination that Westbrook brings to teams, it's just not enough.
Well, you said a handful there, so pretty much
we can move on.
Yeah, we do have. Well, they were down as we finished watching the first quarter,
3-0.
By the time we come out with another episode,
3-0.
Washington
Philly.
may be home.
Yeah, exactly.
They may be home. So we'll move on from that.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Miami's home, Washington's home.
Well, we don't got them home.
That was. Let me.
They're on their
that.
way.
They're down in the series.
Yeah.
That's the first and 8. Second and 7th will happen to be Brooklyn and Boston.
I have Boston winning about 1 or 2 games. I don't see them, especially without
Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown, and I mean maybe after game 3, I would think if Jaylen Brown was there, this could be totally different.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about that? Brooklyn, because when we spoke about. When we had our guest here say, we was talking about how you don't want, if you're Brooklyn, you didn't want to face Washington in the first round because it could be very brutal and there's a lot of banging and things of that nature with injuries, players who aren't 100%.
Right.
The longer you allow this to proceed, while Milwaukee is sitting at home, watching, putting the scouting report together, you might want to get this over as soon as possible. And I think Boston has one more game in them. I think they could probably win 2 out of.
Yeah, that's the thing about it, because in game 3,
Tatum,
he scored 50 points.
Yeah, man.
His supporting cast, Tristan Thompson had a monster game.
Yes, sir.
Monster. I think it was like 19 and 17 or something like that.
Not to mention he's undersized, so if he's doing that against Brooklyn,
can you imagine what other teams? Listen, but that first of all, when you come to Brooklyn, for the first time in 59 years, you have 2 players that scored 39 and 41 and lose the game.
Yeah.
2 players on the same team.
Yeah. But this goes back to what their Achilles heel was.
No defense.
Yeah, so that's part of the issue. Now, we're not saying that Boston will beat them, but if you're watching the game, you don't want to prolong this series longer than it has to be because you're dealing with fragile players on that roster.
If Brooklyn was what everyone expect and think and say that they are, this was supposed to be a sweep.
Yeah, especially without Jaylen Brown.
Kevin Durant matched up against Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum should not come out of that game with 50 points.
Nah.
And his second wingman, which would be, being that Jaylen Brown is not there, which would be Kemba, having 6 points, and they win that game.
Doesn't make sense.
No, that tells me that you cannot win in what we always knew without no defense.
Nah, not in the playoffs, man. And it's kind of iffy. Like, you will have Brooklyn win the series, but
where is Jordan?
DeAndre Jordan?
Yeah, where is he?
That's a mystery because I don't understand. When we think about the Jared Allen situation, how it was a whole big thing about him starting over DeAndre, and DeAndre got the start. Now he's gone. Now Jordan isn't playing. Claxton getting the minutes.
Is he hurt?
No.
I remember a game during the regular season where he fell and hurt his wrist, and I really haven't seen him since then.
It's the playoffs, man.
I know, but is he hurt?
The question is, would he make a difference?
I gotta believe that
I would take Claxton over him at this point.
Claxton is a baller.
I like him, man.
He's definitely a baller, but I don't see putting a veteran like Jordan on the bench behind it. Especially when you got somebody like Tristan Thompson getting 17 and 19.
Because in their minds, they feel like they're going to outscore you anyway.
That can happen. You can't do that with everybody. That's my point.
But that's the D'Antoni train of thought. And Steve Nash is from that culture. So that's what
you can do
think.
that if Kevin Durant has the mindset defensively that he had when he was in Golden State. Because what I've seen is they don't think they need to play defense. They think they can outscore everybody.
Yeah. So
and that, you know how hard that is for 3 superstars to score a lot of points? It's only enough room for 2. That's why Kyrie struggled in that game. Right?
But you've been preaching that the whole year. So other teams are seeing it too. So now the longer they allow this series to go on, if it does, because Boston is down 2-1, right?
Right.
You're just setting a blueprint or a narrative or even giving other teams some sort of indication on how to play them. Yeah. They have to be dominant from this 4th point on. Yeah. Because even the first game, they let them stick around in the first half.
Yeah.
If Boston, it's a bunch of ifs. Ifs don't matter in the league, but if
Tatum got hurt too also. Tatum left that game early.
Yeah.
He got poked in the eye and left that game early. And he came back with a vengeance in game 3.
Yeah.
And you would think that KD could put a stop to it. To me, it looked like he didn't want no parts because some of those switches didn't need to be switches.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Kyrie, you do it because I don't want him to embarrass me.
Yeah.
And that's what was. And he left Kyrie, who's not known as a defender, out there to drop the guard Tatum. And this dude, he ended up with 50. So when he had 35, you never thought let's not make the switch?
Well, listen, man, this is where championship pedigree comes into play, right? And this is why a lot of people get on Durant, because although he has the rings, is there any sense of I would say, because we call it what? Retaining information, right? So you learn something, now you apply it later on down the road. He should be able to carry that over. Now he's the leader on this team, right? This is his
leader. He's not a leader.
Well, listen, maybe that's the problem then, because if they allow these cats to stick around, they go 6 games.
Because I'm gonna tell you, if Kemba get hot at the same time when Tatum is having just a decent game of what he's capable of, because that was a superstar game for 50. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had a great game to drop 50 when his number 2 guy only got 6. No. And then Tristan Thompson is the one with 17 and 19. So if he can get Kemba going, they can make a series out of this.
They can, man. And it goes back to what? Championship pedigree, right? Yeah. We spoke about this the last 2 series we spoke on. Tristan Thompson is the champion, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, he is.
So that's the 2nd and 7th seed. We went over what the 3 and 6 was the Bucks in Miami. Mm-hmm. Right. So the last one would be the New York Knickerbockers and the Atlanta Hawks. I took the Hawks in 6 games
and
after
I took
debate.
the Knicks.
Yeah. Yo, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. You seen Julius Randle?
I'm not worried about it, because for some reason I got a funny feeling that Julius Randle is going to find his shot before this season. I mean, he cannot continue missing the shots he's missing. And I'm watching how it's the same shots he took during the season. The difference is it's not single coverage, it's double coverage. And he's getting the same shots that he would normally hit, that he has been hitting all season, that got him the player of the, not the player of the year, but the most improved player of the year. Okay, but when you look at it, if he continued to be on attack like he was during the season, like in game 2, right? They lost game 1. Mm-hmm. They won game 2.
You're down by 12 and they came back in third.
But that was in the second half. Randle shots wasn't falling, but he was able to get to the basket and draw the defense and create shots for players like Barrett, players like
Bullock.
D-Rose
is balling out
well,
of his
D-Rose
mind.
is already balling. He need people to set up for him, because D-Rose set the tone for that.
Alec Burke.
Right. All of these, Randle creates shots for these guys. And I watched in the second half of game 2 how he wasn't making shots, but he was still attacking the basket. And when he drew, he was able to dish out for easy buckets for those guys. And that's how they got that victory.
Yeah. But my thing is with that, and we spoke about this roughly about a week and a half ago. Y'all can go back and check out our the preview of the Eastern Conference playoffs. My thing is the Knicks offensively are just like any other Tibbs team. Yeah. They're very predictable. Let's go back to game 1. 1 possession game. They need to tie the game at the end of regulation. That was OT, right?
Yeah.
Did you see what Tibbs drew up? That was horrendous.
Yeah.
Just throw the ball to Randle and hopefully he can get a shot off.
Right.
I think Tibbs is limited offensively.
But defensively, he's great.
And that's the thing. But when you're dealing with dynamic players like Trae Young, you can't stop players like that. Dudes like Lou Will, who come off the bench, Bogdanovich, they have scorers on the team. And also,
I'm glad you mentioned Bogdanovich, because people don't really understand. I mean,
well, listen,
he's on the scene right now. He had never been on the scene.
I'm going to be honest. Because you had to lecture me on him. Because I was like, he's nice, but he's everything you spoke of and more. He has big shots. But let's also give credit to Atlanta's defense, because I spoke on Nick McMillan.
I never thought that they was going to be capable of doing that. I mean, it's easy to do that against a
Capella. They're giving Randle headaches, man. It's not just missed shots.
Not just Collins.
Capella's there.
Gallinari. Because it's the size.
They got the length.
Yeah. It's giving Randall problems.
It is.
And I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But now that I can see it now because it's happening right before my eyes. But before this series started, I didn't see that. And I just got finished watching Julius Randle destroy Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And there's no way if he can do this to Anthony Davis. But the shout outs to Atlanta coach
Nate McMillan.
I understand it, and from my point of understanding, Atlanta still haven't given him an offer sheet for next year, or even talking about a deal for him next year. When it's a no-brainer.
Well, it's a no-brainer. He's definitely coming back. It's just
I don't see that
as if he wants it. But at the same time, I think what really set this series apart, because we talk about the most improved players, and listen, let me preface my comments. Randall's a baller. Like we've seen the maturation process of him, right?
Yeah.
I think the issue
most
is
most improved player.
Yes, an all-star.
And it should have been an MVP
votes,
conversation.
Yeah. Based on
now, I'm not saying win it, but he should be in the conversation. Yeah.
I think the problem is in the playoffs, a lot of fans out there, they seem to think that this is an NCAA format. No, when you play in a professional team in a 7-game series, there are adjustments. They see things night in and night out. What you did in game 1, you may not necessarily be able to get away with game 3 and game 4.
Right.
I don't think that he has seen enough to be able to make the adjustments on the fly. And Tibbs doesn't really present that. Because D Rose is nothing really changed with the coverage on D Rose, right?
No. Right.
But he's still getting off. Why? Because he has the experience to understand.
But at the same time, they fit that. You got to understand. Atlanta is understanding that we'll live with D Rose doing what he's doing.
That's a great point.
And we'll continue covering him straight up. And we're not trying to stop him from getting to the basket and doing the things he do. But we want to just contain Julius Randle.
That's
because
a great
he makes
point.
the difference of them being a winner or a loser.
And you know what else confirms what you're saying?
Right.
Game 1.
Yeah.
Alec Burke had the game of his life.
Yes, he did.
And the Knicks didn't pull it off. Those type of games come back and burn you, but it was probably Atlanta's strategy. Like,
you just can't let Julius Randle
just go off.
Julius Randle been the focal point of the Knicks' success all year, and the problem is, and the reason why, I don't think it's so much of them being. We talked about this earlier, and I agreed along with you, as concerning like the Knicks, Atlanta D'ing up Randle. I don't see that because I see him missing the same shots that I watched him make all season long.
But you know what's funny about that?
Right.
And that's a valid point also. But I think it comes down to adjustments as well, right? Because if you look, they're making the game harder than it has to be. Let's go back to the Giannis situation. He's never within 12 to 10 feet of the basket. Everything is perimeter. He's stronger than anyone on probably Atlanta.
He's not.
Just face him up.
Wait, let me correct you on that. During the season, he looked like he was stronger and it's just a beast and bump you and knock you off a balance and and pulling up for a mid-range shot between 15 feet from the basket or whatever, and then occasionally threes. The problem is he's getting those same shots. He's just not making them.
But what did he do in game 2? Attack mode. At least he tried to get to the free throw line.
Attack mode. He still wasn't knocking down shots, but he was creating shots for others. He made a few shots, but not at the percentage rate that he made during the season.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's the playoffs, baby.
It's the playoffs. It's a total different game, and he haven't stepped up to be what they need him to be. And I just can't see him continuing to miss those shots. And I still got the Knicks, although I know we said my man who was here, I miss him, was here in South Carolina visiting family. I wish he was here today with us. But I know you and him both had Atlanta to win that series in 6. But I believe...
No, he had the Knicks. I had Atlanta in 6.
No, both of y'all had.
No, he had the Knicks.
Oh, yeah, he did have Knicks, right. 6 or 7 was what I said. Yeah. I can't remember what said 6 or 7, But I still believe that the Knicks can pull this off in 7. And the reason why I say that is because I can't see Randall missing the shots that I watched him make all season long, every game of this series.
Well, my biggest takeaway is this, right? They're down 2-1. Last night's game was, they just seemed as though they was an inferior team.
They just couldn't make a basket. Their defense was all right. You can't do nothing. Trey was perfect.
But even with that, Trey hasn't had a monster Trey game yet.
No.
He hit big buckets. Yeah.
He had halves and all that. Yeah, but not a full game.
Because even Nate, sometimes if you look at game 2 when they were up by 12, he sat him too long.
He sat him too long. That's how they lost that game.
You could be down 3-0.
3-0. Yeah, 3-0.
So with that being said, the Knicks, Randall has to step up. I think that R.J. Barrett needs to attack more. There's too many. They're too perimeter, man. Yeah. They're too perimeter. I see you yawning over that. That means you lost faith in the Knicks, huh?
No, I tell you, I still got the Knicks to come out of this series in 7 games. I really believe that. And if not, I can understand because Atlanta is showing me a lot of what I didn't think they had. And even Trey is showing me that he is that superstar that you can trust. Because although he, like you said, he haven't really had one of those big, great games all the way through. He might have had a half or whatever, and a couple quarters and spurts and games where he showed who he really is. But this last game last night, the one against the Knicks, I tell you, he picked them apart.
Opening them up.
He picked them apart. I mean, as a point guard, not as a scorer, but as a point guard, not as a superstar, but as a point guard. He did a great job in getting the ball where it needed to be, where it needed to go. He read their defense perfectly. And, I mean, the game is really coming to this young man.
Slow it down.
And don't get it twisted when I keep saying Knicks in 7 because I'm a defensive guy. Yeah. And I believe that the Knicks defense could possibly slow them down, and they haven't done it yet.
Well, the Knicks are a good defensive team. Tibbs is historically a great defensive coach. That's his MO. But sometimes I feel like Tibbs has like the Frank Vogel effect. He doesn't have a feel for the game, right? He thinks too much. Let's go back to game 1.
Yeah.
Trey hits that big floater to take the lead. Why'd that happen? Because Tibbs put Frank Ntilikina, whatever his name. I'm sorry.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, he hasn't. I'm gonna tell you why. You can't do that to him.
I'm gonna tell you why.
You cannot. You put Bullock on. He's because Rose is a defensive liability, right? Frank, he gets a lot of flack for where Phil Jackson drafted him at. But
Frank Ntilikina defensively, I don't care. And I had a conversation.
But they got to get minutes though, right?
Right. No, but I had a conversation with someone earlier in the season. And it wasn't on air. It wasn't recorded. But I had a conversation. I can't remember who I had the conversation with. And I remember having a conversation with somebody who was saying that Tibbs is the type of coach that'll bring in a clutch game Frank Ntilikina in the game for defense purposes, and he gets the job done. And then when I'm watching this, I'm thinking, just Zach, because I like to be right. And I'm thinking, this is about to make what I believe right to happen. And it didn't happen because Trey showed us that he's greater than what you think he is. You just can't bring nobody off the bench that been sitting on the bench all game to come guard me.
That's the issue.
So I can understand that. But I still cannot go against that decision. Because Frank Ntilikina is a great defensive player.
But if he's that great, why didn't you have him in early to stop him?
Because he makes so many other bad decisions. That's why.
That he does.
And he don't fit into a playoff rotation.
I get it.
But if you want to bring him in, and I said it earlier I can't believe who I said this to, but I was saying he's the type of coach that will bring Frank Ntilikina in down the stretch to come in and make a defensive play and get the job done. And when I saw him bring him in, I never questioned it.
Yeah.
So I can't question it now because I can understand. I called it out before it even happened or even thought about, and thought that he was the type of coach that will make the move. So when he made that move, there's no way I can talk bad against it.
No, I dig it. So going forward, the only thing, not the only thing, but the Knicks can only hope, or the fans can only hope, that Randle finds his rhythm, because I think
believe he will.
Tibbs has showed his hand. Alec Burke had a great game one. No one expected that, right? You got that performance from him.
Because he's been doing that all season.
Yeah, he's nice.
Not at this.
He's a lottery pick.
Yeah, he's been balling for the Knicks. Mm-hmm. He had been hurt, but when he came back,
them buckets he was hitting was crazy.
That's how I've been watching him do that all season. See,
on this stage like that, I'm gonna give him
not
his props.
On this stage, but I seen him win games for the Knicks this season.
He was on the verge of not having to pay for any dinners in a minute.
But he got hurt. Yeah, he got hurt and then he went out. But he was doing that before he got hurt, and then when he came back, it didn't take him long to step right back in and do that. And then the playoffs started, and we watching him do it in the playoffs. And so it wasn't shocking to me because I watched him do it during the season. Mm-hmm. Because to me, I always felt that and I'm not trying to start no controversy, but to me, Randle is playing okay. But to me, Randle is just a
Robin.
Not a Robin. He's not even a Robin. He's a bench player. He comes off the bench and give you a spark. That's what he is.
Julius Randle?
Not Julius Randle. I'm talking about I'm sorry, not Julius Randle.
R.J. Barrett.
R.J. Barrett.
Yeah, we agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
You've been saying that for a minute.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
To this. That's not a knock on him. It's just that he's
Lou Williams done paid how many?
Exactly. To me, he could be one of those players that six man off the bench.
Jamal Crawford. We go down the list. The cool coaches of the world.
Yeah. That's
Barbosas of the world. Like, these are champions.
That's R.J. Barrett to me.
Yeah.
He's not a superstar. He's not a superstar. He's not a star. He's not a starter to me. Mm-hmm. Is he productive on the floor? Yes. He's not a starter. Not a starting shooting guard. Mm-hmm. He's not a starting forward, a small forward to me.
No, besides, yeah.
So, I mean, come on. That's it. And that's the Eastern Conference, all in a wrap.
Yes, it is, man. And even with that being said, we done spoke here for almost probably a little over, 35, 36 minutes.
Yeah.
It's exciting, man. I'm watching every game.
Yeah, listen.
I don't care who it. I'm like,
from the play-in to the playoffs, been excited.
Yeah. And
I don't care what nobody talking about. People keep talking about, these players today is soft.
No.
Listen, this has been a physical playoff. Refs been kind of letting them play. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not all touchy. Quick fouls and all that. They let them play a bit.
Listen, I don't want to go off into a tangent, but like we people compare it to 90s ball, right?
Yeah.
Was that it was exciting, but seeing players get hacked going to the lane, that ain't great either. Nobody
75, 80-point games. No, I don't want to see that.
Come on, man.
No, I don't want to see that.
Almost getting hurt.
I want to see what the talent you got.
Yeah.
Show me what you got.
Let's play within the rules.
Defense.